so cool. But it is beautiful, but it really doesn't suit my riding. I'm either, I love a solid climb or I love a flat TT, and this doesn't give you any of that. It's up, it's down, it's technical. You never really know what you're gonna get, and everything bagel is just throwing it all into one single route. So it's going to be,
Interesting, so interesting, especially as they hit that reverse KOM immediately as they start, which means we could be seeing in just a few minutes' time when this race starts. Do you think we'll see an attack straight from the flag drop?
I think that's my suspicion, because this has been the series of watching people lead out and attack straight from the start. So that's going to be my guess for today, yeah.
Well, I hope so. Before we get any closer to today's race, let's see how far and I've made a note here, the obscenely talented cycling polymath phenom, TeamPTz, has come since his first race.
To me, I think I've found the discipline of cycling I'm not very good at. I'm not just going to stop having got dropped after 15 minutes. So for sure, I'm going to try and at least get a good result in one of these races.
The more that Tom races and rides on Zwift, he's only going to get better and better. And I think it's only a matter of time before we start seeing TeamPTz winning on Zwift.
First time for these riders out here on this course, and the teams are going to really either have some depth or a solo rider who's going to really try and dominate this race for those points. We have to wait and see how that's going to work out.
Pidcock moves up the outside. Oh, is this a big attack by Pidcock? We know the sort of power this man can put out. Still 6.9 watts a kilo, 7 watts a kilo. His heart rate now, 182. He's riding at or near his threshold without a shadow of a doubt.
TeamPTz has shown his talent for Trinity Racing here out on Zwift right now.
He can win on mountain bikes, he can win on the road, he can win on cross, he can win TTs, and it looks, Nathan, as if he's going to coast to victory here. This is superb stuff.
You did that the hard way. I mean, we've seen you race 4 times on Zwift, but you went, didn't you? You went for it.
I got a little gap and put the power up on just to see what would happen. And then I had like 3 seconds. I thought, oh, well, I might as well carry on here. And then, then I ended up the gap growing and growing. I was like, right, well, I guess I'm committed to this now, so I had to carry on.
There's a lot of suffering going on, especially in the last 5K, but did you enjoy the win?
I did, actually. I mean, it's nice to win a race, you know. It's been a while.
Good stuff, Tom. Thanks very much. Congratulations again. Enjoy your warm down, and as I said, I hope you got something nice for your tea, buddy.
Roast chicken in the oven, I think so.
Good
stuff.
Yeah,
my dad just came up and said there's 10 minutes until tea, so.
Well, there you go, Rhea. What did I call him? I called him the obscenely talented cycling polymath phenom. And, you know, however good he is, you have to learn how to race on Zwift. He was always going to get good. And he drops that aero power up at the bottom of the climb. Away he goes.
Yeah, his timing was everything. It looked strategic. It looks like it was exactly what he was planning to do. And I think this time in lockdown has really changed the attitudes of a lot of our pro riders who are so used to being on the roads in real life, really understand the tactics and strategies that they're employing, but now suddenly are learning about the platform, learning about e-racing, and really understanding what they need to do, because it's a different game being online and racing digitally. And now we're seeing that these no longer are the community riders dominating these races. The pros are really starting to come through, and breakaway series is what they're now showing. Really impressive stuff.
Pros are pros for a reason. Well, one of the things that Tom credited with his win, and we know he's got all the power of a small power station, nuclear power station, was the use of drafting. And it seems that Tom isn't alone with this, and many other pro riders using drafting to their advantage.
Drafting in cycling is a tactic and technique used in almost every real-world race. Simply put, drafting is the skill of tucking yourself behind another rider and placing yourself in their slipstream to reduce wind resistance, which can be the difference between winning and losing. Drafting in Zwift is just as much of a key part of racing as it is in real life. Now, as you can see from the wild colours here, drafting zones flare out in a cone behind the rider. Using these cones to keep yourself in the draft, rather than constantly yo-yoing from front to back, means that riders can save up to 20 to 30% of their power. The bigger the pack, the bigger the draft, but even tucking in behind a single rider has its benefits. Although the benefits of drafting in Zwift are slightly less than what you'd experience outdoors, it is of course a bit easier to get in and stay in the draft, as you don't have to worry about bumping the wheel in front. Now, imagine everyone is battling to stay within the bunch, but you could suddenly turn off your draft cone. Enter the burrito power-up. For 10 seconds, this boost gives a rider the chance to make a move without their draft cone, hoping to drop the chasing riders in the process. But riders need to be careful about when they use the burrito, as it doesn't turn off the draft wake from other riders nearby, so riders have to be clear of the bunch before they drop it for optimal use. It's these crucial power plays that can be a significant advantage to riders in-game, as many of the pros have been finding out.
Drafting makes a big difference in Zwift. I was at the bottom and I just sort of got out of the saddle and I got a little gap and put the power up on just to see what would happen.
I think you really have to learn how to get your place in a bunch to have the biggest drafting effect, because I think that's the key to win a race.
Zwift's like any sort of video game, it's a bit of a fine art. I mean, you still got to pedal your bike. It's a little bit like timing, like in real life, really. You can't just go all in and think that you're gonna drafting's not a thing. It is in real life, and it is in Zwift.
Raya, it's like real life. Never put your nose in the wind. Make sure you stay behind somebody else's bottom.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting because I think drafting on Zwift is just as brutal as in real life. If you don't have the wheel, if you're not in the pack, you are out so quickly. And I employ this tactic all the time. I'm tiny, I've got to hold high watts to stay in the group, so I just find someone just like you to draft behind OJ.
Thank you very much. A monster on a bike, that's what I've been called before, a Godzilla on a skinny wheeled racing bike. Yeah, I've done it before myself. You think, yeah, I'm in the pack, I'm doing this, right, I'm going to go for it. Watch this. You go out to the front, nudge ahead, and it's like somebody's inflated a parachute behind you. Now, somebody who could have done with some teammates drafting for him is Matt Stevens. He took on today's recon of the route, which is the Everything Bagel. Raya, give me 3 words to describe today's route.
Brutal, relentless, and never-ending.
Very good. I've heard it called other things. What was it called? It was called grippy, hilly hover cars. There are other words for you as well. But let's take a look at today's stage with Matt Stevens.
I've plenty of riding around this course of New York. It's actually one of my favourite courses, but I've never actually ridden in one hit, the Everything Bagel. Here we go. It's wonderful. I've got Central Park to myself. Now we're only 1.9 k's into the course. We're on the climb. This is the reverse KOM. We're going to have to lean into this. I wouldn't call this a pure climbers course, but this early part of the race, definitely one of the main opportunities to thin the bunch down. Steep here. Really punch into this. Here we are on the High Line. On this last road. It is flipping wonderful. You can look right through where you're riding back down into Central Park. I just saw a little hover taxi. Oh God. What goes up, of course, must come down. The riders here, if they're smart, will be getting up to 60 k's an hour, which they will be doing easily, and getting into a nice aero tuck. And on a course like this, you've got to look at every single opportunity to rest and recover. So come back down to ground level. You see the skyscrapers cruising round. It's a course that really flows up and down, gentle rises, but the litmus test is going to be how they ride it. And aside from that descent, you're going to be on the power all the time. Back onto the glass, skyway. This is a significant little dig. This is nasty, 6%. Again, not super steep, but significant enough for the craps to start. You're going to want to keep on driving before the road steepens and you can get into the super tuck. Minus 5% here, nice little descent. 1 kilometre to go, very, very fast running, minus 1%. So the riders now I'm going to be carrying a lot of speed. 600 metres to go. Little bit of a slight kicker. This has got aero power up written all over it. The road just bears a little bit to the left. You just see the banner comes into view very, very late. Who is going to have what it takes to take the win on the Everything Bagel? That is one tough cookie of a course.
Now, I don't think it's letting out too much of a secret that Matt Stevens really struggled on that race recon there, didn't he, Raya?
Yeah, definitely. But it is one of those type of courses that is brutal. If you're someone who really, really likes to get your head down and ride a constant watt or likes a solid climb, this course is not for you. It is up and down. It goes up in different levels. The gradients change on a regular basis. It is brutal, and Matt was a great example of how hard this can be.
I mean, Matt is still, whatever he says, he's still in great shape. He used to be a national champion, an ex-pro rider. To see how much he struggled on it makes me never want to take this course on, but I don't have to. Let's take a look at the teams who are taking it on today. Usual big hitters. Keep your eyes on Indoor Specialist, Canyon ZCC, and Turbo and Vitus as well. And then at the ones to watch, interesting lineup. Usual names, including Corbin Strong. He's new to a ones to watch. 20 years old, current UCI World Points Race champion. He is absolutely flying. And it's great to have him as one to the watch, mainly because it gives Matt Stevens the chance to say, strong by name, strong by nature. So there you go. That's who is going to be racing today. We're about to find out who is going to win, Raya. Now, I think we can guarantee one thing, which is people will be crying by the end of this. The racers, the riders who are almost ready to go, they are going to hurt today, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those courses that throws us all. The racers in particular today, although they're going to make it look easy, they're going to do it with finesse, and I'm really excited to see what unfolds today.
Me too. My tip is somebody's going to go from the start. Somebody's going to give it a crack. Whether they called it or not is something else entirely. Raya, thank you very much. As always, let's hand over now to our commentary team, which today is Nathan Guerra, but first, Matt Stevens.
Well, thank you very much indeed, OJ and Raya. This is the final race in the Tour for All Invitational. The men take on the Everything Bagel in beautiful New York. It's a gorgeous day in New York here. And for this final race in what has been a wonderful series, tackling different courses on each occasion, is the voice of the Zwift community, Nathan Guerra. Nathan, this is a tough course. It's never been raced on before. We've got a great field, lots of riders in good form. I think more depth, than we've ever seen in these sorts of races. I think it's all set fair for a really, really exciting finale to this series.
Yeah, before this race started, we were talking about how deep the talent is in this field. We were looking through the start list going, no idea. Like we have obviously some big names that we're looking at from each team, but each team is so stacked. And the reality of the course, as well as how difficult it is going to really bring out that talent. I think we're going to see, as far as who wins on the day-to-day, I think it's like the Zwift racer of Zwift racer is going to end up showing up and showing how their tactics and their power is going to throw down on course today.
Yeah, it's just worth going just over. The riders have gone away now, 700 metres under the wheels. As we expect at the start of every single Zwift race, very, very high numbers. A few riders at the start of every single Zwift race, very, very high numbers. A few riders already dropping a few power-ups because we know that the first King of the Mountains in this race comes very, very early. It's the reverse KOM for any of you who are familiar with riding in New York. Again, it is one of my favourite worlds. But this climb, or this race, should I say, is 34.4 Ks, 21.4 miles, 545 meters or 1,788 feet of elevation. And Nathan, we pretty much hit the elevation straight away because after 1.9K, 900 meters time, we are going to hit the first KOM, and it's a stinger, isn't it?
serious stinger. There is a lot of very sharp sections through here. It really punches over and over again, comes back at the riders. I think we hit up to 14, 15%, we were saying. So it's going to put huge amounts of sting in the legs. Now, it's not a very long climb, but it's going to be an all-out effort to the top to try and break things apart. We are looking at Gavin Dempster here, riding from at home here. He's always hanging out in the bathroom there. I love where his setup it is. A man who loves to just gets it done. This guy, and talk about this man getting it done. Over the weekend, Gavin Dempster won the overall in the Tour of Gila Pro Conti racing out on Zwift that we did the virtual side of things. And you want to talk about climbing? There was epic KOM. It was, I mean, over and over again. There was nothing but climbing in that race. So I'd be watching out for Gavin. He's got some climbing legs on him this week here.
He certainly has. A few of the riders rode the Tour of the Gila. Of course, the race can't be held this year, so it's great to see it on the Zwift platform. Hopefully, we see the real-life race back next year, of course, as we just roll through the teams. We're on the bottom of the climb. Starts off gradually, kicks up a little bit as we just go through the Canyon ZCC roster. Dania, West, Ollie Jones, Bishop, and Sinclair. And look at the numbers on the right-hand side already, well into the red. And you've got this little plateau. We'll talk a little bit about the Dutch racing team. For me, Nathan, I think they're one of the dark horse squads. They romped to victory in the team classification just a week ago, didn't they, on Innsbruck? And they had a rider who's in 5th place overall. But let's focus on this climb a little bit, Nathan. It's a climb, I'll openly admit it. I rode this last week. I know that you rode the Everything Bagel the other day as well. I don't like this climb because I can't get into a rhythm. It just comes at you in stages and it's just like hammer blow after hammer blow.
Yeah, over and over again. We already see it happening here. Getting into that, we saw 15% gradient right off the bat there for just a moment. We did see Martindale heading to the front there. Callis Esports team. We're going through all the teams here at the bottom here, but I think the riders are just already starting to set up here for this climb. You can see at the front here, the pack is, so what the riders are trying to do is stay as close together as they possibly can. There is some drafting still on this because of how it does punch, as you had said. Then we'll even out as we do see it even out here. They're going to be staying to the left. Oh, excuse me. They're going to be taking a right here now, off over toward the rest of this glass climb. As you can see, this is the reverse around here, and off in the distance there, you can see that top out. And at that very top section, there is this serious kick here. But now we do start the official KO, and we are seeing an arrow power up on the front end of the race, actually, as it looks like that is going to be Diegner here, it looks like, from the Canyon ZCC team. This is a long-time Zwift racer, very, very experienced. He's already got a solid little gap here. This may be, now, he tends to be a rider that they use to try and instigate the pack, to put sting in the legs. He's kind of a workhorse for them. I think that their favorites on the day are going to be Ollie Jones, Alex West, and he's actually looking here to loosen up the legs and make sure everybody's keeping everybody honest so that Canyon ZCC maybe later can take an attack on the other side of the KOM. Because staying away against a pack like this, I don't think it's going to happen. He's just trying to make the race very hard.
I think I agree with you. I mean, Diegner is a rider that can finish very well. We've seen him lead out. You showed me a very interesting video of one of their lead outs that they did just a couple of weeks back as we look at the roster of Trinity Racing there. Newmark, Walker, Ben Healy, Sam Culverwell, and Thomas Gloag. Unfortunately, no Tom Pidcock. He originally was going to ride this, but has had to pull out, unfortunately. But just look at the damage here, Nathan. Just looking this wonderful kind of almost cinematic view we've got for the front of the peloton on the left-hand side, and lots of riders already in a lot of difficulty very, very early on, and this is what we expected. But Diegner's still on the front, and this can work in two ways. He's clearly trying to pull this pack out, make it very difficult. But again, if he does, get away and starts to ride away in his own forms, a little breakaway, it's not up to Canyon ZCC to do any chasing. So this is a win-win this early in the race for them, I think.
Yeah, it is, and we are seeing it do the damage at this point. It looks like maybe I'm looking at about 15 riders already off the back, and with the talent in this field, that's very surprising to see. Into the orange numbers we can see here now. Brandlin looking to come across here. It is a 2-second gap, so it does look like this is going to come back together, but it has done a good amount of damage, though, after this initial climb here. As I said, it was going to be a very short climb. We already see the KOM banner here in the distance, as I think we're going to be coming in maybe just a little bit over 2 minutes. This is absolutely fine. Does look like Mottram there from Vitus Pro Cycling. Watch out for them. They are looking to close things down. Vitus is the team I would be watching out for out here as well. Christopher McGlinchey with some stage wins over the weekend as well in the Tour of Gila. So very good legs going on Christopher McGlinchey. And Mottram's kind of his man that's been working for him recently. So I think he's looking to close things down, or maybe just get involved in what looks to be maybe a break forming this early on.
Well, this is a good move here. Still Deigner on the front. That's a good ride from the heavier rider. We've gone over the top of the climb, and there's a bit of a plateau just at the top, so you really need to lay on the power. Then the road drops very, very steeply indeed. Once you kick over 60 kilometers an hour, you can then get into the aero tuck, get yourself a little bit of a rest, time to recuperate after that big effort. Good to see these Dutch riders. It's worth talking a little bit about the Dutch team. Again, we mentioned that they did win the other day in the TeamPTz competition. As we see this group now, maybe 30, 35 riders strong, definitely reduced from what we had at the start. But watch out for Jasper Okkeloen. He is the Dutch mountain bike marathon champion. He was 5th last week on the individual race, and he's been racing a lot recently on Zwift, so he's a bit of a dark horse for me.
Yeah, we are looking here off the back now. This is going to be a Tico now from Poland now, U19 rider. So a couple of riders have been dropped off. This is just the damage that's been done. They're up ahead. There is a chase group trying to bring back, it looks like, 4 seconds, actually. It's a group that's containing some pretty big names in there. Brad Gavaris is in there. Fisk. We're also seeing Almdahl from Callis off the back. All the big names have made the front group at this point, though, it looks like. So it looks maybe about 40 riders have gotten away. They still need to close things down, though. You can see just behind Mottram here. There it is right there. So that group just barely getting back on terms. They're still having to put out big watts, though, on the front. They're 6.47 watts per kilogram, trying to get in the super tuck. They have to close this down. A couple of matches burned here at this point just to get back on terms. We're actually seeing a drafting power up, and very rarely is the drafting power up used it's a power up once in a while that you're like, oh, I'm so glad that I got this. And I think at this point, the riders that were in the chase trying to bring things back, we're so happy to have that power up there. Things all back together. Looks like 40 riders or so have gotten away here with the break situation.
Yeah, about 40 riders out in front. Martin Vang, the cyclocross specialist, former Norwegian Zwift champion, at or near the head of affairs over the last year or so, has been very, very aggressive in racing. But that's really interesting there, Nathan. You talk about using the draft power up and the aero power up. You can actually use that power up when you get in an aero tuck to increase your speed even more. So if you are doing 60 k's an hour and you want to go even quicker without pedaling, just use the power up when you're going over 60 k's an hour, and that can help shut the gap down. But you don't see it used very often. And I was doing a bit of deep reading online to kind of look at a little bit more about how interesting these power-ups are. But everybody's getting wiser and wiser, and it's making the racing even more exciting. The use of power-ups and the way that riders are using them at unorthodox times as well.
They're seeing a break here. Now, Ollie Jones went off the front about 7 watts per kilogram, and then it looked like, I believe the BRT rider that went across was Martindale, and he used a burrito power-up in order to make sure there was no drafting from the pack, because that's really what it's all about, is making sure that that pack is not hanging onto your wheel when you do attacks like this. And this is interesting. I was expecting it maybe just to be a KOM party over and over again, but the reality is they're just making it hard at every section they can do it. So, and it looks like Ollie Jones was the instigator. So Canyon CCC has shown up with some tactics, and it looks like the rest of the pack is willing to play. The moment that Ollie Jones went off the front there, they responded. Dutch Racing got involved. Zwift Poland got involved as well. BRT, indoor specialist, but Dan Fleeman's there as well. Now Ollie continues on at 6.7 watts per kilogram, looking for another gap here. So Canyon CCC, I think they're showing up, and they said, here's the riders that we want to make this difficult. Who's going to be the reserve rider then? Because that's what they're doing here. They're just making it as hard as they possibly can and working for one rider. And if it's going to be anybody, I think it's going to be Alex West, because he's made this group, and they've sent Philip off the front. Then they sent Ollie Jones off the front. I think Alex is going to be the next one to be looking for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting move, that. And what you got to look at is the psychology of riding hard out of the blocks over a climb like that. If you've made that sort of effort, you've managed to make the cut, as it were, the last thing you want to do is not ride and keep the group going. Back off and let everybody who's got dropped but get back in contact. We see that IRL in real life as well, and it is the same on Zwift. Just look at Andrzej Poczko there, second place in Innsbruck, the Polish rider, looking very, very focused, in great form at the moment. He's going to want to keep this going as well. He was one of the riders right at the front of that little move that goes over the top. And at the moment, Nathan, everybody in this group on this very, very fast section, we're still not off the glass, actually. We're still not off that higher road yet. But soon, in about a kilometre or so's time, we'll drop back into Central Park for the midsection of this race after this little kick up here. But yeah, fantastic stuff. And this, as you mentioned, you went through all the names. All of the favourites are, I think, in this group at the moment.
Yeah, and Andre is actually a rider who really surprised me in that last race, coming up over the top of that KOM after party in Innsbruck, man. It was absolutely an amazing ride from him. I'd be watching out for that rider, actually. He was definitely on a short list of riders that I said, look, this one has some power on a climbing stage like this. Now, as they do head back down off of the glass into the park, that section of this race, as we look forward to that, has a lot of little punchers. Things don't just calm down. You know, it has actually a ton of opportunity there to try and make more breakaways happen. And again, now I think it's Rowan King off the front a little bit here. We're looking though at Zonneveld here from Dutch Racing, a team that's shown up and they actually sent me some DMs saying, we're here to play, Nathan. We're not messing around. Be on the watch out. They even made a little video announcing, hey, Dutch Racing is here. And we can see now with the little break off the front, Dutch Racing is looking to get involved here. It is going to be Van der Bosch from Dutch Racing as well as Andre Kazoko. And then it is Todd there from Rowan Kingo that instigated this 6 watts per kilogram off the front from him, 170 beats per minute here right now. So it's going to get shut down though, but still keeping things very difficult. As we head back in the park, things are going to get very punchy now.
Yeah, 9.6 Ks under the wheels now. Back into the park, as you said, this little group moving very, very swiftly along. You just look at the stats here, just staying in this group, just 10 watts a kilo. That's one of those little kickers that you mentioned. This section of road does have some flatter sections. There are some long straights that the riders will face to get into a rhythm, but primarily it is undulating, and it's constantly kind of changing gear, making sure you're kind of trying to rest when you can, but most of the way now until the final descent of the final climb which bookends this course, you're going to be on the power all of the time, and that's going to make for a very, very hard race, as we see Todd again eager to go off the front and keep this pace high for Rowan King.
Yeah, it does look like the racers are absolutely flying today. You're already 10.4 kilometers in with the climb in there at 13:30 or so. I mean, this is some pretty fast racing. Nobody is messing around. We're looking at Ryan Trommler here from the Friday Criterium TFC team, one of the longest standing teams out on Zwift. If I'd have to name 5 of the teams that were the earliest adopters to racing out on Zwift, the TFC would be on that. Would most likely be on that list. The TFC have been a huge community. Most likely be on that list. The TFC have been a huge community team and organizer of races. Actually started as a team that was all about Cat C and D races and have been providing an awesome place to race and do group rides. Actually, on Fridays was the whole idea for more of a focus on those riders. And now it looks like that in the last year or so, getting more focused on the elite side of things as well. So good to see TFC here in the race today.
Indeed, well, things have slightly settled down. I say slightly, they're still all riding about 4 to 5 watts per kilo. So that would see most riders out the back, but it's settled down just a little bit. And a good opportunity, I think, Mason, to talk a little bit about one of the teams that we've never seen racing at this level on Zwift, as we look at Ben Healy. He's gone for the outside. Looks like he's on his patio, top off. It is glorious weather in Great Britain. He is a rider who has been racing a lot on Zwift at the moment, is Ben Healy, a former winner of the stage of the Tour de L'Avenir in real life, a real class act. But focus a little bit on it's the Portuguese Zwifters. It's the first time they've raced here. They're a community-based Zwift team from Portugal, and they've got a real interesting lineup. They've got Jose Concalves, who in real life rides for Team Delco. He's 31 years of age, 6th overall in the Tour of Turkey, ridden the Tour de France, twice the Giro and the Vuelta, and is the current Portuguese TT champ. So it's good to see another team in the mix riding at this level.
PTZ has really picked up some talent as of recently. I did get a few messages from BJ Alfonso, another rider who actually PTZ is also on a short list of teams that's been around for a very long time. BJ, always an amazing asset to the community. Really cool to see that he's picked up some great riders for that team to be hammering out here in this Tour for All Pro-Am now. Now we do have Tama here from Dutch Racing off the front, gives a little attack on one of those little kickers into that negative 10% gradient. Now we'll see if he can carry the speed on through. Doesn't look like Andre Pozopko is too interested in doing too much work on the front, almost just kind of letting that roll away at 3.8 watts per kilogram in the front of the race. So, or on the front of the chase there. So with 390 watts right now, it looks like he's going to be able to hold on to this. Dutch Racing here now with a little attack off the front. They're not going to chase that down. They're just going to sit in and watch the rider go away. He's got 4 seconds. 3 seconds looks like Callis, though. Callis willing to do the work as well as Zwift Poland.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dangerous rider. Just looking at the kind of race he's been doing recently. He's won 3 races since May. Spring-loaded race series, Greater London Hilly race, a whole lot of Lava Hilly race as well. So clearly a rider in very, very good form. And maybe just applying the pressure on the front. He's clearly confident, clearly feeling good. He's a rider at max that can deliver 1,400 watts. He has been brought back. And maybe the other riders were just a little bit worried about him. But just looking through, we've got Brad Guveris in the mix, Dan Fleeman, he'll like this course. Mikey Mottram is there. Berg as well from Callis, very, very good rider indeed. And we were talking before the start about the rider picture in picture now, Nathan. Talk us a little bit about Jeremiah Bishop.
Yeah, he's a part of a chase group now. This is about a minute back here from the lead group here. Jeremiah Bishop, former national champion, multi-discipline for the mountain bike, XC scene as well, short track, and also featured obviously in Off-Road to Athens on how to get into the Olympics, was one of the Americans trying to do so, and a long time North American well-known racer, currently riding for Canyon in real life as well as for Canyon ZCC here. And very, very strong rider out on the mountain bike here, and jumping in, riding for Canyon ZCC now on the Zwift World. Very cool to see. I think a lot of his focus recently has been more on the endurance events, but I think he's been kind of ramping it up just a little bit here for the Zwift racing as he's jumping in with Canyon ZCC now.
Yeah, another real bit of talent. I mean, this field is absolutely stacked. These races just keep getting better and better. And a rider who has managed to infiltrate this front group, riding for the SEG Racing Academy. Normally they're just called SEG. Because of the current situation, they've renamed the squad to SEG Racing. Is a young chap, 20 years of age from New Zealand, called Corbin Strong. There he is, right on cue. Hey, I wonder if the producer heard me. Wonderful stuff. Just knocking out under 300 watts there. But he was 3rd overall in the New Zealand Cycling Classic earlier this year. But more importantly, in 2018, he was a Team Pursuit World Champion at junior level. And in 2020, so this year, he's the current World Under-23 Points Race Champion. I'm going to be fascinated to see how he copes on this sort of terrain. I think he's going to like it. He's clearly got in this front group, is obviously feeling quite good. But if he can win points races and he can climb, Nathan, he's going to like this course.
Yeah, and it looks like he does have some teammates for support there. I'm seeing at least 2 other jerseys there from SEG that have made this front group. So, and it looks like he's been sitting in pretty well here. Seeming right around mid-pack or so, 4.1 watts per kilogram, 166, 165 beats per minute. I think he's got a lot to work with here within this pack. I mean, the reality of how fast these boys have been going and being able to recover that quickly, definitely be watching out for him for a turn of speed, because we've seen on this course a turn of speed for if he can make it over the second KOM, that's what it's going to be about for sprinters or people with a super solid kick, is that making it over the top of that next KOM. After that, the lead into this sprint finish is slightly downhill, actually. It really favors a pure sprinter as long as the lead out train doesn't absolutely break them coming in. So we'll have to see how that works out. I'm definitely watching out for Strong for the win out there today.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've got 19.5 kilometres to go till we hit the finish. 14, we're just under 15 Ks under the wheels now. But before we do hit that final KOM and we go up the climb they've been before but in the other direction, there's another nasty little drag. And when I did my recon the other day, as we just look at Anders Frick's picture in picture there, it's a tough little climb. It comes at around 19 kilometres. It's 6% for about 1.5 kilometres. And I think, Nathan, we could see this group on screen at the moment thin down, or there's the possibility, depending on how they ride it, that this group could be thinned down even before we hit the final climb. But as you said, they hit the final climb and we still have 8.5 kilometres to go before the finish. But as you said, that last kilometre, very, very fast indeed. The use of the right sort of power up, lead outs, going long, lots of different permutations, lots of different possibilities with the amount of speed they're going to be carrying into the finish line.
Yeah, we do see a lot of power-ups being used. Now, that is not for any kind of a breakaway situation, everybody here. They are heading into the lap finish banner here in just a moment. Now, they're going to be doing this forward. They're doing this up this little grind here at a 7-8% gradient, as you were saying. It's going to be a false flat for quite a while after this as well. So great opportunity to break away. Riders almost always try and do this through this section here, as we are seeing a rider off the front. There's going to be Sheriffs there from the KRT team with a feather power up, actually. But they were using, the riders that were using it right before that section were looking to try and grab a new power up. And I think Sheriffs here was like, look, I got a feather power up. I might as well use this here, give it a little bit of a go, see what happens. I'll get a new one as I come through the banner here. So it's kind of a little bit of a dice roll. But if he gets another one, you know, another opportunity will come in just a little while over the cam banner as well. So there's a lot of opportunity to grab power ups here. And this section, of course, always makes things difficult. Falls flat, 2-3%. Everybody's got to work about as hard as you're working as the pack looks to close this down. Now they will be doing the opposite direction of this for the sprint into the fifth. Well, excuse me, no, not through this section actually, but it'll be a downhill similar to this for the sprint actually on the opposite direction.
Indeed. Well, that's Pavlik now moving to the front. Kruger is there. We had a couple of little looks at a rider called Nick Hug. He's a Swiss rider riding for the Bolt Racing team. He had a pretty good season so far. His best ride in one of these elite races was second in Richmond in the Tour de Zwift. He's in this front group. And look at this, Concalves, the Tour de France veteran, has managed to get in this front group as well. Clearly adapting to racing on Zwift. McGlinchey, unsurprisingly, there. One of the most consistent riders at the moment. Third at Innsbruck the other week. Several wins to his name. His most recent win, of course, was the aforementioned Stage 3 of the Tour of La Gila. So some real big hitters in as we go through the 1 kilometre to go board. That's in the other opposite direction. As we just mentioned before, or Nathan mentioned, they'll be coming back down this way.
Yeah, they will.
To the finish.
Yeah, excuse me on that one. So this is actually the section of course where we saw that amazing lead out actually in Calais Cup round number 5 from Canyon ZCC. Now they do not have as many riders though involved, I think, here as they did on that course, because it's a much flatter course. So if but with how many riders we are seeing from each one of the teams, I think it's going to be pretty tactical leading in. But as you have said already, you know, there's a lot of climbing to come here, and with such a small group, you know, this is kind of right around that number where you could split this up enough that the pack is not going to chase you down as easily on the downhill. There is that steamroller effect. As we look at the team draft in the red jerseys here, Sean Gaidish now, another very strong rider here. No longer, though, having Dempster in there. Does Dempster move over to Indoor Specialist? He used to ride for this team, actually. So maybe going to be looking to try and beat his old teammate out here today. That'll be interesting to see if Draft can try and make something happen up against the Indoor Specialist out there today. But always fun to see when riders are switching, but they have buddies on the other teams, and kind of a little bit of rivalry maybe going on there now.
Indeed. Well, the Indoor Specialists, of course, have changed their name, haven't they? They're still in-game Indoor Specialists in the orange and blue kit, so watch out for them. Larson, Bauer, Dempster, Fleeman and Coles. But of course, they're now called Saris and the Pros Closet, so they have changed their name. And they said we've had a bit of a mid-season transfer as well. But I think it's worthwhile, Nathan, as this is the Tour for All, we're at about half distance, still got some pretty serious climbing still to go. I think it's worth giving a big shout out to what the Tour for All is all about. At the start of May, Zwift donated $125,000 to Medicine Sans Frontiers, that's Doctors Without Borders. And if 250,000 Zwifters ride one stage of the Tour for All, by the 30th of May, then Zwift will donate another $125,000 to that very worthy cause. So if you're on Zwift, if you haven't done one of the Tour for All stages, please do, because you'll be chipping in and doing your part to raising a hell of a lot of money for a wonderful cause.
Yeah, we are seeing actually a lot of intensity here already, and absolutely awesome there with the Tour for All. Make sure you jump on out there. I'm going to get out on a Tour for All ride, I think, later today as a part of my base ride. And really great how many there are going on. You can just jump into events. If you got a longer day planned as I do today, I'm definitely going to just be using Tour. I mean, there's so many of them. You can just, and they also have the makeup ones as well.
Makeup time, yeah, you can choose a stage. Yeah. Well, this is the section of the course they go back onto this glass, the glass skyway for now a little bit. We're just looking at a very, very interesting rider indeed called Mike Cumming, 29 years of age now. Very, very good pros. Third on the stage a couple of years back in the Tour de Yorkshire. Can climb well. He's got a bit of a kick on him as well. And he won the overall in the Tour of Korea back in 2013. So Rowan King pretty active here. Todd back on the front again. This is this nasty little climb. When I did my recon, Nathan, I was really surprised as we look at a group just chasing behind, probably a kilometre or so off the back. But this midsection is actually quite hard, and I think we might see a mini bit of a shake-up, because look at the stats of Todd there, 7.4 watts a kilo, still 15Ks to go.
Yeah, we're looking back at the chase group now with Gregor MacArthur there for the TFC. Not going to be bringing back the front pack, that's for sure, as they're off the back. 14.8 kilometers to the finishes. Now, the things are really breaking up ahead. And, as I was watching your recon, I was thinking, it hits the glass, it's a pain in the rear. Maybe I wasn't thinking that exactly, but that doesn't quite rhyme. But it hits the glass, and this really is a difficult section here. Every time that we hit this transparent road, it just heads uphill. And Adama there from Dutch is following up with Todd there. And Mochram, man, beat us, he's kind of played second fiddle over and over again to McGlinchey, and maybe not today. I think Mikey Mochram wants to get something for the red jersey out there today, and he's going to know Rowan King as well. They raced Pro Conti together, and I have a feeling that these two off the front are familiar with pounding watts out on the hill climbs here. 428 watts from the Rowan King rider. Really starting to break things apart a little bit behind. It is starting to snap. There's one rider falling off, so obviously things have gotten very difficult here.
Yeah, that was a really good move, a good tactical ploy, and as I was thinking, as I was riding that section, which did catch me by surprise, it's not part of the New York course that I normally kind of ride, so when I did the Everything Bagel, I thought, wow, this could be not the most critical section of the race, but just another opportunity to shake things up. And looking at some of the numbers here of riders who are on the front, just trying to maintain their position in this group, just shows how hard these riders are having to work. And you are right, Nathan, one or two riders have just lost at the back of that group, and when you lose contact on Zwift, once you haven't got the benefit of that draft, it's so difficult to get back in contact, as we see Harrison Wood, a very, very classy youngster from the United Kingdom, powering clear for SEGE Racing now.
194 beats per minute, obviously not taking it easy, 6.7 watts per kilogram. And after the snap off the back there, we did see, I believe it was one of the SEG riders that went off the back, actually. So it was Trinity. It was actually Trinity, it's Gloag went off the back actually by about 9 seconds. Now Dempster actually on the back here, maybe suffering a little bit, 174 beats per minute as well. So SEG maybe tasting a little bit of blood in the water and wants to attack here. And as we head into the final KOM in just a moment now, we are down to just 36 riders here that have made this front group.
Well, this is a good little effort by Harrison Wood, but he's a good time trial. He's still very young, only 19 years of age, but was ninth in the Chrono des Nations under 23, which was the old Grand Prix des Nations, one of the most prestigious time trials in the world. And he was top 10 in the national under 23 TT championships in Great Britain as well. So he's putting out a solid effort, but he has been brought back now, back into the fold, as the road, thankfully for these riders, just eases a little bit. That horrible drag of a climb now just rolling a little bit. They'll drop down, and it won't be very long, Nathan, before we commence the final climb, the big climb of the day, because we hit the top of that with 8.5 Ks to go. So it's not long before we hit that final very, very nasty climb, and I'm expecting this group to explode.
Yeah, and a very sharp downhill here, so the riders are going to get an opportunity to rest a little bit. They are going to be getting over that 60-some kilometer per hour, 35 mile per hour mark that they can get into a Serpentine, and now it's going to come right back up into a 7% gradient. Now, Mikey Mochram heading to the front here. We said he may be a rider to be watching out for, but now is it going to be SEG? Now, back on the front, McGlinchey's still here as well. Watch out for him, but it's going to be Healy. This is the George Meade Keeling, also from draft here, looking to go across there. 11 watts because up and out of the saddle here, knowing that is a rider to follow. Ben Healy from Trinity off the front, so he's looking to close that down. That's why he put that kick in. And if they do get a gap here now, there's always this question that needs to come into the mind. Am I putting out too much before the serious efforts here? But if they can work together, McGlinchey's looking to go across, and if a rider like McGlinchey's looking to go, if they can work together, McGlinchey's looking to go across, and if a rider like McGlinchey's looking to go across, these four could work together before the climb even starts, have a good gap, and then Mochram here too as well. So two Venus riders, indoor specialists, I think. Dan Fleeman's going to just try and shut this down, as well as Dutch Racing. They're going to put a couple workhorses on the front and say, no, not quite yet, boys. We're waiting for our tactics, not yours.
Yeah, that was a nice little tentative move there, but what it did do is put a lot of riders in difficulty. Just looking back, that group, those 36 riders or so, were really stretched out as we get another great shot of Ben Healy. I was going to say inside his pain cave, but as we saw before, he's out on the patio. Hopefully there'll be a barbecue there for this effort afterwards for him, but he's really piling on the pressure. 310 watts. He's trying. And have a look at the kind of heart rate. He's up at around 180 beats a minute. So these riders are on him. Look at his face there. From the front to the back. That's the thing, isn't it, Nathan? If you go hard, if you put yourself into the red and the group go by you, especially when they're carrying more pace, it puts you in a lot of difficulty. But look, he's back in the draft, back towards the centre of the pack, and that's where you want to be for maximum draft.
I sure hope Ben's got a big old fan out there with him. I mean, he looks like he is really working. You can see when I do the same thing, actually. When I'm really suffering, my head just goes slightly to the left. It's just like I'm looking to try and move somewhere a little bit, and then it looks like the wink of the eye there as well when he's really trying to just hang on. You can see the heart rate dropping back down. It was over 180 for just a little while there, so it does look like things have calmed down a little bit as the pack bunches up again. It's interesting to see how you can see the metrics, the look on the face there as well as things stretched out. We saw the elastic go out as it got into the straight line. You saw how he was suffering, and then as it calmed down, you saw the heart rate come back down, the change in the face, and you can see how much the effort changes there with those in real life images.
Yeah, it is great to see. I do love those picture-in-pictures, especially when they enlarge them so we can get a real good look on the pain face of the effort that these riders are putting in. Just a smidge over 10 kilometers to go. We came up the other direction. The riders will be swinging. I think it is a left-hander in a minute. There they go. Left-hander from their point of view. They came into the climb from the right-hand side before. Alex West now on the front. Healy just towards the back of the group. A few burritos are being dropped there. Remember, the burrito makes you undraftable for 10 seconds. And we've just seen Sam Brandl now from the Swedish Zwift riders go clear. Again, one of the most consistent riders on Zwift, really leaning into this and putting a lot of power on the lower slopes of this final climb.
George Mees-Killian from Draft shuts it right on down. 8.5 watts per kilogram. That's a counter coming from the Draft team. That 13% gradient here. Here's the first real kick as they're going to be going left-hand turn this time around now. West now following it. Canyon GCC, three pink and purple jerseys toward the front here. They are completely set up. I see West, Diegner, as well as Ollie Jones perfectly placed here. They're looking to control this race, perhaps, or are they going to go on the attack? We're going to see in just a moment here. SCG now comes in front. It's Strong, the rider that you called out. He used his invisibility power up. They're not going to know that he's even going off the front. He's throwing 8 watts per kilogram, but there's a response here from Bowden. Martindale's there as well, it looks like. Strong trying to break things apart without being seen, but not going to happen, as it looks like it's Gavin Dempster, Tour of Gila overall winner, now going with the feather power up. Now 10% gradient, 11% gradient. He knows the moments to go. As it gets really sharp here, you get the most advantage over your competition. Now it looks like with a little bit of a gap, the real business end of the race we're getting into here.
You look at this, and these top 10 riders here, you just see the stats on the right-hand side. All of these riders riding about between 5 and 7 watts a kilo, and they're spread over 2 seconds, just the top 10. Dempster, 8 watts a kilo. Hug now, great bit of riding there by the Swiss rider. I think he drops a feather power up just on the steepest part of the climb. Just look at Corbin Strong. Remember, the under-23 world points race champion, former Team Pursuit champion of the world at junior level. What a talent he is. We know he can climb well. Look at this, 470 watts. Use that little invisibility, the cloak of invisibility that makes him invisible to the other riders, 15 seconds. Great shot. And to me, Nathan, he looks like he's got a little bit more under the hood. He looks pretty composed, but he's dropping back through the group at the moment.
Needs to play it very smart right here. And I'm not sure that they're going to chase too much. I mean, perhaps the rider right ahead of him in the indoor specialist kit there is going to do something, but there is a breakaway group forming right now. There's another opportunity. There's a serious wall in just a moment. It's only going to take about 10 seconds to climb, but it gets right up into that 15% gradient at that moment here. But Strong here looks like he could stay involved. 189 beats per minute. He's right on the wheel. Now, this is where the real kick is going to happen, though. And who is going to make this group, if it does split, is going to be decided right now. 10 watts per kilogram here. It does look like it's going to be Brandlin toward the front now. Vitus Pro with McGlinchey and Martindale now to the front. McGlinchey using the feather power up, looking to split things. 7.5 at 184 beats per minute. It looks like things are going to mostly stay together with this pack. Everybody who's right on here is able to at least pull 4 watts per kilogram, should come over the top. A few will fall off, though, as they start to gather at the front here. There is a deciding moment right now for, it looks like, Dan Fleeman, Norin, Ben Healy, and Todd, because the pack is rolling away. If they don't have a kick, Norin looking to go across from SC because McGlinchey is pressing on.
There are some very, very good riders. Look at this, minus 14% here. A little bit of an opportunity to get on their aero tuck. Afford yourself a little bit of rest just to reduce the amount of lactic acid in your muscles, reduce the heart rate, time to swig a little bit from your bead on, keep your hydration high. Nick Hug is in this front group as well. There he is, Nicky Hug, the Swiss rider. Look at that face. That is focus. That is confidence. That is concentration. But there's a few riders now. It looks like Healy has got back in this group. Dempster drifted towards the back. The top 20 riders now only spread over 2 seconds. Dan Fleeman, a couple of seconds of drift, but I think he's in the slipstreams. I think he's just got enough of a kick to come over the other side and to come back into this group. But
they're gonna have to throw down like 10 watts per kilogram right now, as soon as it flattens out, or they're gone. If they don't do something right this second, Dan Fleeman, Ollie Jones, Ben Healy are out of this race at this point unless they close it now. And that's just my opinion. I mean, I may be totally wrong, but from watching this right here, unless that group ahead calms down and they start looking at each other a little bit, there is a breakaway. Well, not a break. There's some serious riders that have not made that front group at this point. And I think some of the other teams, Canyon ZCC, have nobody in that chase of 4, and they have a lot of riders up front. They're going to try and work, I think, to hold off Fleeman as well as Healy.
Well, Fleeman hasn't managed to get back. The gap is opening. It's opening slowly. Johan Nuren from the Swedish Zwift riders is there. Richard Todd is off the back, but it's 3 seconds. It's holding at 3 seconds with this group behind. But a man who hasn't got those sorts of problems, a man who we know is on very, very good form, is Andre Potskop on the right-hand side. Look at that face, Nathan. He looks very much in control. He's going to be buoyed, of course, by that wonderful ride the other day on the Innsbruck course. Only 6.3 Ks to go. And the gap is opening now. Healy and Fleeman are at nearly 4 seconds now. You said they had to make that difference quickly. They might have even to sacrifice a power-up and work together. 3.5 seconds. They're dangling off the back. They must be in absolute agony now.
Yeah, and you can see the live image here, 5.9 watts per kilogram just to hang on behind. They're closing it. What an effort. Can they close it down? But no, there's more attacks going here now over the top of this little kicker here now. I'm not sure it's going to happen because Martindale's throwing down the feather power up off the front now. Hug is trying to hold this gap out as well here. They're trying to make it as difficult as possible. They can see some other riders. They're Strong, really in a spot about here. Oh my gosh. 170 here from Strong as well. It's Emma from Dutch Racing unable to hang on because of the effort from SEG off the front now. Constant attacks. They can see that it's breaking the sprinters. They do not want to carry anyone to the line. They want to try and create a breakaway situation. They know that a lot of people are hurting at this point. If you're hurting, they're hurting. So they know, let's just drive this pace here. John Conclaves now from PTZ to the front here. Who's still involved? We still have Mottram, I believe, has made this front group. Yep, Mikey Mottram still in here. We've got 3 riders from Canyon ZCC. And Canyon ZCC are still playing their cards so well. Sitting in and waiting here as we have Harrison Wood here on screen, 187 beats per minute. I don't think his heart rate has dropped below 185 for like the last 30 minutes.
He's looking very good. Again, his speciality is the time trial. He's used to keeping that sort of linear effort, used to riding in the red or at or near the red, riding at threshold. Happy to ride on the front. And SEG Racing, we've got an exceptional team here today. Of course, Corbin Strong is in this group. Harrison Wood on your screen at the moment. They've got Marco Frigo, and also who's the Italian under-23 road race champion. But Wood drifting off the front. He's happy to keep this pace high. And that could be an instruction, given the dangerous riders off the back now, because Richard Todd and Dan Fleeman and Healy, they're now at 11 seconds and only putting out kind of 4 watts a kilo, which is a watt per kilo less than the riders out in front. I think it is game over for those riders who I thought would be in the mix. Yeah, 11 seconds down for that group. Unless this front group now, Nathan, really start to ease off and start playing cat and mouse, it's game over, and the winner should come from this group with 4.6 kilometers to go. And it's a roller coaster all the way, apart from that long sort of -1% downhill drag to the finish line.
Yeah, you see Mocher make his way to the front. 8 watts per kilogram. Keeling following very closely there from draft. Looking at who's got who. So we do have 2 riders that have made this from that Vitus Pro Cycling. Mikey Mocher, Christian McGlinchey. They're going to be working together most likely to try and put some sting in the legs for Canyon TCC. Canyon TCC still have Ollie Jones, Alex West, as well as Philip Digner there. So that's going to be that's a triple threat, that's for sure. All 3 of them have a huge engine. Any of them could be the lead-out train. Now Mikey Mochum, look at him here really working now at this point. As you can see, putting the pressure on the front here, and I think that's to try and set up McGlinchey, because Christopher McGlinchey, I think, has the better kick to the line. I think Mikey's can climb as well, but I think Chris has got the spin.
I think, Chris can do it all, can't he? Lynch, if you look at the results he's had on Zwift, he can win on climbs, he can win on the flat. I mean, he's won the downtown Dolphin, so he can win on crit circuits as well. I think he's one of the most versatile riders out there on the Zwift platform at the moment. But Mikey Mottram keen to keep that pace high. What he doesn't want to do is give anybody now an armchair finish. So I think there's definitely some communication going on within the Vitus Pro Cycling team, who've ridden so well. Remember, they came out, they're essentially a road team that's come across to the Zwift platform and is now bossing it. They kind of know it inside out. They know how to rise. But now Concalves goes. Remember the Tour de France veteran from the community team from Portugal? He's still in the mix. That Grand Tour experience clearly in his legs, and great to see him in the mix. You wouldn't want to let him go because he's the current 2019 Portuguese national TT champion. He could take a long flyer.
He could, and we might see a situation like that as riders are. We'll see if they tire out. I mean, this group just continues on, though. It looks like now it is backing off a little bit. Now, this may be one of the lulls here that somebody could take advantage of, as you were just saying. Maybe a TT off the front. It is somewhat of a false flat, about I would say 2.5K out or so, maybe 2K out. It does take a right-hand turn, and we're going to see as we got 2.9 here. Now we're going to see this little uphill for a little while, falls flat, and then it gets into a little bit of roller, a couple of sidewinders, and then downhill into the finish. So maybe somebody could give a kick here and get the distance that's needed. What's interesting is that in the Calais Cup round number 5, we saw almost the exact same riders, minus James Phillips. Who is their sprinter is going to be the question, because Digner went from about, I would say, probably that 2K to go and kind of set things up. I would not be surprised if we see a repeat for that, for a setup for either Alex West or Ollie Jones. I would have to say Ollie Jones is set up for the sprint there.
You'd have thought so. As a look at Mike Cumming here, an exceptionally good rider. Rowan King have got a couple of riders in the mix. SEG Racing, E-Racing in that pink and blue kit have got 3 riders. Canyon ZCC in that purple and a red kit have got 3 riders in the mix as well. Look out for the indoor specialists as well. I think they only have 1 rider in the group now, indoor specialist. Not too sure who that is, but there are 18 riders in the group. It is now between these riders. Pop's going. There, he's in great form at the moment. Brownland, he's got a very good finish on him as well. But are we going to see a team control this and do a lead out like the one we saw in the Calais Cup? It's interesting, the power up's being used. I think Brownland is dropping his featherweight power up.
Dutch Racing. It's Automa from Dutch Racing here. He goes very early here. And like we said, will somebody try and make a kick into this false flat? It's 1-2% gradient. They need to match the power pretty much that he's putting out now into 5-6%. He will be able to get a little bit of distance here from the pack that's not working quite as hard as he is. Wood now looking to go across, trying to cover this now. If they start looking at each other and say, no, you chase, they start getting a little bit of disagreement, we may see this work. But Ollie Jones goes directly to the front, 12 watts per kilogram. He's using a feather power up as well. So Ollie's looking to go across. Canyon's ECC will not chase this down either. Now the tactics of the teams are starting to play out. We have 1.4K to go to the line. There's not a lot of teamwork happening behind here, and this may work out. It may be a 1-2 up front, but with how this pack is going to start ramping things up, this is a long shot, but it's going to make things very difficult for those that are just wanting to sit in.
It is, and Automa is a very, very powerful rider. Peak power of 1,400 watts, coming under the kilometre to go flag now. Jones has joined him. Automa and Jones in the front, and it lives. Jones goes straight past, lays on the power again. Automa down. He's going to have to chase to try and get back in the slipstream of Jones. Jones has gone long. Third place now, another Dutch rider, Van der Bosch at 3 seconds. Jones now half a second lead over Automa coming into the last 800 metres. This is a wonderful move by Ollie Jones, but Automa back in the slipstream of the rider from New Zealand of Canyon ZCZ. But Jones now, Nathan, is 100% committed.
Yeah, they've let it go, but Hug uses an invisibility power. They don't know that he's gone. The pack behind does not know that Nicky Hug is at 15 watts per kilogram. They've let him go, and Hug goes flying by. This is the first time I've seen the invisibility power maybe completely blow things apart. He's got 5 seconds. It's 463, 400 meters to the line. Can they hold on? Ollie Jones ramping up, though. He's trying to maybe lead things out. John Clave's now coming out. I think it may be too little too late. I think Nicky Hug from BRT has done this, but it's a downhill screamer to the line. Brandlin is trying to come across. Will the arrow power up make it happen, or is it going to be Nicky Hug? Nicky Hug, Brandlin, right to the line, and it's Venus Pro, but no, I think Hug just barely did it, perhaps. It was right there. We're going to have to go to the photo finish. Chris McGlinchey trusted for that final kick in the last 200 meters, but it looks like maybe caught out by Brandon and Hug. Not sure which one took it.
I think it is. It's Nicky Hug. That was
what
an amazing victory. That was I've not seen a finish quite like that.
7 100s, Matt. Like,
not much in it at all. There we go. His first big win on the Zwift platform. Nick Hug, an amazing ride, 5.3 watts a kilo. He had to work for that. A lot of that would have been in that last 700 meters, but second place for Sam Brandlin there. Chris McGlinchey, so consistent in the third place there for Vitus Pro Cycling. Then we have Strong there from SEG, good ride by him. The world under 23 points race champion Alex West from Canyon ZCC. His teammate Deigner there in 6th place as well. Then we have Dempster, Mills, Keeling from Team Draft. Another rider from SEG, Wood there, and then Mikey Mottram rounds out the top 10 for Great Britain and Team Vitus. But what a finish that was. So exciting. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and I don't think, Nathan, it's fair to say we've seen in such a high-profile race the invisibility power-up being used to such dramatic effect. Add to the fact, in course, he put out 15 watts a kilo too.
You know, he's probably like earlier on kicking himself, coming over that KOM or wherever he got that, like, oh, I got that. Is this going to, and then he uses it perfectly to his advantage. As soon as it started going downhill, he kicked to 15 watts per kilogram, got a huge amount of speed, and got 5 seconds and just barely hung on. Christopher McGlinchey going, man, we should have closed that down a little bit earlier perhaps, but I think they were so tired. There was just a reality that nobody had anything left with how difficult this race was today. This was a barn burner.
Yeah, a real bar. I mean, and a slightly different race as well than we've been used to. 45 minutes of effort, although it's only kind of 15 minutes than some more than the shorter Zwift races we've seen. It's a completely different physiological effort. A little bit more involvement with endurance. You had to be able to take a lot of punishment because the way they rode up the 3 significant climbs, the 2 KOMs, and that nasty drag midway through. You have to have the ability to soak up punishment, but also you got to be smart. And Nicky Hug made sure he was in the front group, didn't do too much, drifted to the front a few times, but the way he dropped that power up, and of course, that is the only power up he had. He had to use it to devastating effect, and he did it. Ideally, it would be the draft one, but that was fun. And that was, I think, Nathan, it's fair to say, that was one of the best races on Zwift I've seen in a long time.
Oh, very, very exciting racing. That was extremely exciting to watch there. And you know, I think Canyons ECC, they got a DS. They're watching. I think we're going to a replay here in a second.
Yeah.
Here it is. There is the kick, it looks like, from SZ trying to come across there. But and McGlinchey as well. But Hug, look at this.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, right there. It's literally, and we saw 7/100ths of a second.
Yeah.
That's what 7/100ths of a second looks like right there. I mean, and you look at, he wasn't even pedaling. I think he was so done. Look, I think his cadence stops at a certain point, and Brandon was trying to take it out there. But amazing result there. And, you know, I think Canyons ECC, with their DS in their ears, they were thinking, as well as Christian McGlinchey there, how are we going to close this down? How are we going to make sure to control the race? The invisibility power up, you know, Hug had Martindale with him only there. I'm not sure the communication was at quite as well as between those teammates. And I think there's just a reality. You couldn't prepare for that. The invisibility power up completely changed what the tactic was.
Exactly. I mean, that was a wonderful, wonderful race. I mean, there you go. Just a confirmation one more time of your top three. Nicky Hug takes his biggest win for the Bolt Racing team, and Switzerland. Sam Branlin in second, and Chris McGlinchey rounds out the podium in the final event of the Tour for All. And the Everything Bagel, well, it really did have everything today. It had excitement. It had pretty much everything. The riders are going to deserve a well-earned rest. And Nathan, thanks as ever for commentating alongside me. What are your thoughts on the Tour for All, mate?
I think it's amazing. I want to hit that mark. We need to get as many riders out there as possible to, you know, as far as the racing has gone, the racing has been really, really exciting. I think